My name is Tyson Armstrong, and I'll be speaking about George Washington tonight. Washington was born on February 22nd, 1732, in Virginia. History tells us that he began surveying at a very early age. It also tells us that he showed signs of being a natural leader in his youth. The road to becoming the father of our nation began when he became an officer in the Virginia militia. Even though he lost his first battle as officer, it never deterred him from pushing forward. Only after researching this man's life and contributions to America did I come to admire what made the man that became our first president. After reading books and articles, I can now see how one man could be so influential in a struggling time in America. If not for George Washington's love for his country, his leadership, and his faith, the American experiment would have died with the Revolution. Tonight, I'll talk about how Washington's love for his country was shown through his humility and service. Next, I will discuss his leadership in America's earliest pivotal points and how it was key. Finally, I would talk about how Washington's faith in God led him throughout his life. To start, Washington believed so strongly in an independent United States that he risked his land, reputation, and even his life for this noble task. From his youth, he dreamed of being a farmer at his Mount Vernon plantation. This dream, among others, was put on hold for his military and political service. He showed humility and restraint when, after winning the Revolution and becoming president, he denied being a monarch. In the Revolution, during his presidency, and even through his last years, Washington always viewed the United States as a shining city on a hill, to be an example to the world of integrity and freedom. Washington said, "I hope I shall possess firmness and virtue, enough to maintain what I consider the most invaluable of all titles, the character of an honest man." I believe this quote summarizes what kind of man Washington was. If not for his determination, the Republic could not have stood. If not for his values, even he could have lost course. If not for his presence on the battlefield and in the halls of government, retreats could not have been reversed and political gridlock could not have been broken. Now that we've discussed how Washington's love for his country was shown, I now want to talk about how his leadership was important in the American experiment. Washington was not always the perfect leader everyone envisions. He had many defeats in the Revolution, including losing Philadelphia, the continental capital, and suffering the winter at Valley Forge, where frostbite attacked his men. But everyone has failures. What made Washington different was how he reacted to them. Although he seemed the man of many defeats, he was also the one that led the attack across the frozen Delaware on Christmas night. Because of the respect for his leadership, even with lack of provisions, frostbite, and hardships, his men still re-enlisted for another year. Washington showed leadership as a president as well. When bickering and battles broke out in the Constitutional Convention, Washington was one of the few that could break these disagreements and bridge peace. Another example of his leadership would be, if I were to offer you to be king, would you deny it? Washington wanted to ensure that America stayed a democracy and that he believed in the new Constitution. When the notion of him becoming king was brought up, Washington's usually unseen temper would flare, and he would publicly rebuke the idea. Now that we've talked about how Washington's leadership was important in the Revolution, I now want to talk about how his faith was important into his success. Washington's faith in what he called divine providence was like a pillar of fire that led him throughout his life. The best example I can think of how Washington believed God had a hand in his life was during a battle during the French and Indian War. Throughout the battle, Washington had 2 horses shot out underneath him and bullets ripped through his hat and coat, but he was never hit. After the battle, Washington said, "I now exist and appear in the land of the living. By the miraculous care of Providence that protected me beyond all human expectation." Washington believed that Americans should acknowledge divine intervention at war. Another example of his faith was after winning the war, he declared, "I attribute all glory to that supreme being." To summarize, George Washington's character and courage helped the Americans fight off the most powerful nation in the world and establish a working republic. In fact, if not for his role in the Revolution, the freedoms we enjoy would not be there. Washington said, "Let us therefore encourage each other and show the world that a free man contending for liberty on his own ground is more superior to any slavish mercenary on earth." I believe this perfectly sums up a man whose respect came from honorable actions and the youth of our nation. Thank you.